little bit behind schedule to get this video out. Sorry, I've been a little bit sick, had some other stuff going on, so a little late. I still want to do a week 7 recap of the whole season, not just a week to week thing, but this is just going to be about week 7 specifically. I'll circle back on the T1 recap of all the first third of the season, weeks 1 through 7. I have benchmarks set aside from previous seasons so we can tell who has been statistically really good or really bad, or maybe no one is. But more reference just because I've recorded that 7-week stretch, beginning, middle, end for like the last 3 or 4 seasons. So there's some good data to compare against. Maybe that's something we save for next video. A quick recap of what happened in week 7. Jeremiah and I had a bitter rivalry week as we competed against each other in an interview and played each other in fantasy. I tried to tell him if the winner of the fantasy week takes the job, but he didn't want to take that offer. Good thing, 13-3. I beat him badly this week in fantasy. Frank gets a narrow win over Casey. French narrow win over JW. Corey with a really big win over Maffey, and the numbers were quite convincing as well. Corey's getting a little bump up the power rankings this week. Alex with a big win over Bo, and Nate, big win over Brad. So the numbers themselves, let's look kind of one thing at a time. Here's a look at the standings. I know it's not your traditional Fantrax standings, so it's probably more confusing. Maybe the fun part is over here. Nate, top of the Fantrax standings, currently on a 4-game win streak. I'm right behind him. Frank's right behind me. I'm on a 3-game win streak. Frank's on a 6-game win streak. So 6-1. Lost week 1. Won 6 weeks in a row since then. However, sneak peek, you can actually see it over to the right. VTL is just 52%. So to be 6-1 with 52% VTL, meaning you're barely above league average, pretty incredible. Now, we know Frank has been more than 52% for most of this first third of the season. If you, or me anyways, you know that. And this week he took a big step back, so that's part of it. Still, 52% VTL suggests you are not that much better than average. 6-1 suggests you're much better than average. So interesting. Alex right behind. Actually, no, there's a sizable gap there. Alex has now won a couple in a row. Matthew's lost a couple in a row. Casey started out 4-0, 1 win away from getting his longest win streak ever, and now he's lost 3 in a row. So not trending the right direction there. Corey has been a little bit unlucky so far this season, but he's won a big win this week. 6th in the standings and 7th in the standings, but 6th in VTL. Kind of out of nowhere, Corey's got my attention. Kind of excited for that. French won last week, just a win streak of 1. Bo lost. JW's now lost 3 in a row. Brad's lost 2 in a row. And Jeremiah had been building a little bit of momentum, but ended up losing that winning streak if he had one. Anyway, let's look at the VTL numbers a little more closely. I've updated this as of today. So total VTL, Nate and I are both kind of at the top. He's got sizable lead, sort of. 2.5% or less is not usually what I'd call like a tier gap necessarily. So spoiler, he and I are going to represent tier A this week's power rankings. And then you'll notice 5%, almost 5% gap between myself and then the next team, Frank, who is neck and neck with Alex. I think Nate and I have sort of separated ourselves for now. Nate probably has separated himself even from me. His team's looking really strong. But the reason that we're going to be at the top 2 in the power rankings is just you can see we're the only 2 teams who are good at both. Not a single team is above 50% on both sides of the ball, except for us. Not a single other 10. None of the 10 teams are 51 and 51. Nothing. If you are above on either, you are below on the other for all 10 other teams. To win in the playoffs, you got to be able to compete for all 16 categories, I think, probably, if you want to win the whole thing. Not necessarily all 16, but like if you're a dud on one side of the ball, you better be damn good at the other one. And just ask Jeremiah how that's worked out so far this season. It's not to pick on Jeremiah, but the offense has been amazing, still the best in the league. The pitching's just been so bad, hasn't really led to wins. Anyway, so he's 56% pitching, I'm 55% batting. He's 62.9% batting, I'm 59.5% pitching. He's the second best batting, I'm the second best pitching. And what are we? He's the fourth best pitching, I'm the fifth best batting. So we're quite similar profiles. He's definitely got a little bit of a lead, but I think the two of us are probably looking like the buys. If you had to make a call right now, which I do. Next, Frank, Alex, Maffey, Corey, all separated by less than 2%. And with Corey joining that group, it just widens that bubble tier. So another spoiler here, I'm calling Frank and Alex a tier of their own. I know that these VTLs are really, really close. And even when you look at these, they're really, really close. I mean, hell, these are basically indistinguishable. Literally, pitching and batting splits all together, almost indistinguishable. I feel the momentum for Alex has been really strong. Frank has been really good. He's sort of had a letdown 2 of the last 3 weeks or something like that. But these are the 2 teams out of this group of 4 or any of the rest that I feel the most confident in should make the playoffs. And I'll get into a little bit more in a second, though I will try to not keep this video to 20 minutes or anything. But I think there's a really cool thing here. So when you look at these 4 teams, good at one half, not good at the other, but not terrible. I think it's a cool debate because Frank, 56% is his strength, 48% is his weakness so far, just 7 weeks into the season. But 56% is not going to strike fear into the hearts of your opponent usually. You're beatable at 56%. You're not like invincible. It's good, but it's not some super team, right? Like when you start seeing 62% batting, 64% batting, you're like, that's going to be really hard to beat that team. We don't really have a super team in pitching. But these 4 teams, 59, 60, 58, 58, like I know it's a subtle distinction, 56 versus 58. But 56 is more common than 58, obviously. Once you start getting closer to 60, it's like, okay, now we've reached exceptional level. Not super team exceptional level, but like normal team exceptional. So I think you could debate which one of these teams would you rather face in the playoffs. Again, this is probably way too in-depth for some like, very minor difference in stats. It looks to me, honestly, like any of these 4 teams could beat the other. And with a one side of the ball that's good and the other side not being terrible, this strikes me as a pretty competitive playoff field. I feel like we're in for a pretty good playoffs. Depends what we see at the trade deadline. But yeah, Corey had a big win this week. Let's just get through the rest. So we see a pretty big break in between here, almost 3% down. We now get to Casey, who has now gravitated towards sub 50% VTLs on both sides, albeit barely for both. Not where you really want to see things, especially after he's made a couple moves. So hopefully we'll get a hot stretch here. Casey can charge back up towards the playoffs. French, the batting somehow has been the strength all season, and the pitching I still feel like could be much better once he gets injury luck on his side. Jeremiah, he started to normalize a little bit, but this was a really, really bad week. It kind of killed some of the momentum. I had good feelings, but this week was rough. Brad, kind of like Casey light, no real strength, but not a crazy weakness, although 43% is verging on getting pretty tough. And then Bo and JW, both with a major flaw without a major strength. If your positive side is 50%, but your bad side is 38, 35, it's going to be really tough to get wins. And so for those 2 teams, it's looking bleak if they're thinking about this year. Before we go over to the weekly percentiles, here's a little look at luck. Frank has just had crazy luck this year. 7 weeks. His average batting opponent VTL is 35%. Just can't make that up, man. So Maybe the standings are inflated a little bit. Obviously, I think Frank's had a good season. I've had him ranked as high as 2 in the power rankings. Maybe even 1. Yeah, he might have been 1 actually, like week 2 or 3 or something like that. Crazy lucky so far. Doesn't mean his team's not good. His VTLs are what they are, but yeah, crazy lucky. Jeremiah has just continued to be crazy unlucky. I was really good this week as his opponent. So 58% VTL on average. I mean, look, I just harp on this. There's one team in our league with a 58% VTL right now, the best team in our league. Jeremiah has faced that level of talent every week, and no one else has faced over 54 or 53. Only 3 teams have faced over 51.8. So Corey also quite unlucky. JW also quite unlucky. But Jeremiah, I mean, takes the cake. Like, guy just needs to catch a break. And you know, it's ironic in some ways that the primary way that people are doing well against him is offense, and so it's mitigating his massive advantage. He has the best offense in the league. I am really harping on this now. His offense is 64.6% VTL. That's the best in the league. But on average, his opponents are 61.8, which would be third best in the league. And so when you are built all offense, no pitching, although the pitching started to come around a little bit, except for this week. When you're all offense, no pitching, but everyone you play is just teeing off on offense, it really mitigates your advantage. Of course, you're gonna lose the pitching, and that is why Jeremiah is currently last in the standings. Tough. I mean, I laugh just because it's like so unlikely that would be the case. Sorry, Jeremiah. Hang in there. All right, so let's look more at the percentiles. I guess I zoomed out for no reason. Some individual metrics that were significant this week. These 3 columns are your total VTL, your batting, and your pitching. So you'll notice Jeremiah had a bottom 4% week all time. JW's batting was bottom 4% all time. Jeremiah was just really unlucky both sides of the ball. Bottom 10% batting, 15% pitching, hence the 4% week. Corey, 94% outcome on pitching, 83rd% outcome on batting. That is good for a 96th percentile outcome of all time. That is the 48th best week we've ever seen. Pretty impressive. One-off things happen, but I've been sitting here thinking that Corey's team has talent, especially on the pitching side, where he's obviously shined VTL-wise. But the batting came to play this week, and 96%. That makes me feel like that team could beat a lot of teams come playoff time. Alex also got a lot of help from his offense, even though he has been pitching first. Pitching was still very, very good. So hats off to Alex and Corey. No one else had an exceptional week. I was next best. Nate was right behind me. Yeah, Brad and Casey with some pretty tough luck this week. Not really too much, worth going into all the rest. So let's talk about tiers. Goodness, I'm lost on my own sheet. I've got a title contender tier, Nate and I. We just seem to have separated ourselves from the pack. Tier B is what I have called playoff teams, ones I'm feeling confident. Those are going to make the playoffs. Right now, that's just Frank and Alex. Bubble. Not exactly a shakeup here, but I would say the addition of Corey is new, I think. These 4 teams feel pretty close in that all of them are having some kind of an issue. 2 of them are going to make the playoffs, I think. Playoff doubtfuls for me are French and Brad. I don't really see a path to them becoming all of a sudden way better, where they can now compete not only with like the bubble teams, but like you're going to have to beat some of these teams to make up ground. I don't know. And then that is Estonian. Here, I think I had this. Maybe that was like TBD on what this name should be. But essentially, I'm thinking you need to start looking at selling if you're Bo and JW. I think Bo has openly been selling, taking it slow, but I think he's been willing to listen to offers. JW, I feel like, has still been trying to keep his options open, but it's not looking great. VTLs are just not supporting some big massive change, unless you're looking to go all in on a year where you're just going to hope to try to get into the playoffs, let alone try to catch some of the top tier guys. Doesn't feel like it's the right time for that. So probably if I'm Bo or JW, it's probably about time to start looking at selling. That's my take anyways. So yeah, I think what I was going to show you real quick. So I always have it broken down like this, where we have stats here from weeks 1 through 7. We're going to now start tracking weeks 8 through 14. So the second I put VTL information in for week 8, it's going to start populating here. It's always fun to compare across years and see how things change. I thought that one was at the ready. Let me go. For example, I think I keep it off to the side as well. Okay, maybe not. Okay, I think this is where I'm supposed to keep it, but I guess I didn't. Anyway, if you really are curious, week 1 through 7 last year, for example, we saw Nate go from a 57% total team weeks 1 through 7 to 65% super team. Weeks 8 through 14 to 76% weeks 15 through 21 super team. That's what it shows us. So tracking this, you can see the inverse for teams that weren't necessarily trying their hardest to win. 41%, 39%, down to 32%. Back in the days of tanking, we're not there anymore. So anyway, I want to do that at a future video, and that should be soon, probably this weekend. I want someone else, at least someone else, if not a couple people, to come on and hop on and just talk, as I'm going to be flashing through some of these old numbers from previous seasons. We're going to compare a little bit and talk through some of the, what happened in the past seasons. I think it'll be fun. Anyways, it's probably a long one. Sorry it's late. I will hopefully get the next one out sooner.